really come up because I have this background on. And also, I don't know that balloons are the right the right reaction for this occasion, but nonetheless, I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about some education policy that is happening because I'm not quite sure that people are reading what's happening, or it's a lot. It's a lot that's happening every day, and your attention may be elsewhere. So I want to do my part in doing the best I can to break down what is actually happening in education right now, particularly because today I had to wake up and sign a document stating that I am very clear in understanding what is happening. So, as I was assessing my own clarity, I said, well, let me see if the people have any clarity. And if not, let me assist. So, having said that, I'm going to take just a second to share in a couple of spaces so that if anybody wants to come on here live, they're able to come on here live and ask questions and all the things. So, if you'll give me just a moment or so. And if you are here live and you are watching, please feel free to say hello. I'll do a proper introduction in just a moment. Okay. There are a lot of steps to this whole situation. Okay. I'm coming, y'all. My bad, my bad, my bad, my bad. Also, sometimes I really, 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 really be feeling like an auntie because it be taking me time to do stuff, even though I know where it's at and how to do it. So I'm just trying to make sure that the people have the things and the places where I'm at so that people can come if they so desire. I would also like to know how y'all spirits are feeling because my spirit is feeling so unsettled lately, and not necessarily unsettled as in like feeling like there's imminent things that are about to happen to me personally, but definitely unsettled as in I can feel a lot of the energy that is happening around places. So anyway, if you if you've hung on this long, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Also, I'll put a timestamp for when I actually start talking and or edit out that first part. So hello, my name is Kimberland, and I do a lot of things out here in this world. And this is kind of me in my educational activist role. So I am an educational advocate and an activist. I specialize in school climate and culture, specifically in schools that are in state of improvement. So I'm a school improvement specialist as well. I've been in education for it'll be 19 years this year. Yeah, 20 years next year. And I've worked at various levels. I've worked as a classroom teacher. I have worked as a school wide coach. I have worked as a new teacher mentor, a professional development facilitator, school improvement specialist, student success coach, PR, and public relations. I've done a lot of things out here in this educational world. Primarily, most of my educational experience was in Tampa, Florida, in Hillsborough County, Florida, and that is the seventh largest school district in the nation. And after that, I worked in Pennsylvania on behalf of the Pennsylvania Department of Education. I am currently living outside of the country. I live in Medellin, Colombia. I left the US in October of 2021. And I left the US because of my experiences when I worked in Pennsylvania. It was an extremely, extremely, extremely racially toxic environment that caused a lot of harm that I'm still currently healing from and still processing in many ways. A lot of the things that are happening right now in education are a lot of the things that were happening both in Florida and in Pennsylvania. Now things are more in the forefront. Back then, it was illegal to discriminate against people, and it was illegal to treat people wrongly based on particular identifications with particular categories such as race, gender, um, sexual orientation, religion, disability, all the things that are in the IDEA Act and all the anti-discrimination acts and things that have been in place over the past almost 250 years. That's a lie. Let me just that was being dramatic. The things that were in place since the last administration. Okay. So with the change in administration and a change in regime, as I like to call it, there are some changes in policy and what the policies look like for those who have been uh, vocal and in support of certain ideologies and certain ways of thinking. So, as someone who has been a vocal advocate for humanity and for students and educators who may be of color, students and educators who may have disabilities, students and educators who have been marginalized, and just people in general. It's a lot that's going on right now. And just recently, I've had to recount a lot of the things that I have experienced as a Black woman in education and in educational leadership. And it's a lot. So I work with in a few different capacities with a few different companies, and what is happening right now. And I want to kind of explain this before I get into what the actual policies are, because one, I do not live in the U.S. Okay, so many of the things, the movements that are happening right now, like boycotts and all that type of stuff, I am not participating in. I don't have a way to go to Target or any of that, right? Even though I don't agree with boycotting Target, but I'll say that for another time. But I'm going to put it under this umbrella of what I'm about to say. When federal policies change, organizations are held to certain expectations. And if those expectations are not met, in the case of this particular regime that is currently in office, there are penalties that organizations, businesses would be subjected to because they are not following federal policy. So, what I believe happened with Target, for instance, is that they were like, we need to get ahead of this. Cool, no problem. We won't do the DEI. Also, y'all, we still finna do what we finna do. Like, whatever they out there talk, yeah, okay, and things start to go underground as opposed to it being outright and in faces, as people were very bold about their DEI movements and Black Lives Matter movements and all that kind of stuff. Like, there was a time where it was okay to be bold about that, and now it is not. Now it is a time where people have to be more covert in how they are showing up in these spaces. So, having said that, many organizations have been trying to figure out how to pivot, How do organizations that once were very much in your face, excuse me, I am advocating for particular groups of people in particular ways, and I've reserved money and time and space and energy and all of that. How do they pivot from those very forward ideals to the absolute opposite? That's a lot. So it's a lot of conversations that's happening. So one of the companies that I work with, they sent out an email and they were like, "We need y'all to read this executive order, and we need you all to verify that you understand what is said in this executive order." Hey there. If y'all are watching, please do say hey in the chat. Glad to see you, Toolshed. So, um, and please do share with anybody who might be trying to understand what's happening with education in the US. So, anyway, it's a lot of pivoting that has been happening. So, this company sent out this email and was like, "Hey, y'all have to verify that you understand this information, because if you violate this, basically the consequences are the company would face loss of federal funding. The company, we about to go through it in a second, but the company is going to face different types of ramifications if they do not adhere to federal policy." So, as someone who works with them and who might be a representative of them at any given time, um, they have to cover themselves, because basically they're like, "Hey, if you out here going rogue, I can't do nothing for you. So make sure you stay on script about the things that are happening," right? So they sent us this email and they were like, "Hey, you need to read this, you need to say that you understand it, you need to make sure that you go on record saying that you understood this, because don't go up in this whatever space that you might be in saying these particular things." All right. So when I was reading through it, I was like, Jesus, I knew a lot of it already, but also I had not read like down to a micro level of being able to say that I truly understand the ins and outs. So as I was reading it, I was like, I wonder how many people have actually read this and how they are processing that. Let me do us all a favor and come on here to the YouTubes and talk about what is happening. Okay. All right. So having said that, I also want to say this. This is a new platform that I'm on that I'm getting used to. And so I'm not as fluid in my producer bag that I usually be in. So if it's a little wonky while I'm sitting here trying to share screens and all that kind of stuff, give your girl some grace, because I'm doing the best I can. Okay. I'm learning as I can because I'm an auntie. All right. But I think that worked. Okay. So the name of this document is Ending Racial Indoctrination in K-12 Schooling. Okay. So if you have been listening to any of the messaging, and I am gonna be real like intentional about the types of words that I'm using. I'm trying to be real intentional. So that's what the pauses are about. But anyway, if you have been listening, watching, reading any of the messaging that has been coming out about education, that messaging has been about this idea of radical indoctrination. I don't know if I said radical earlier. I might have said racial. Let me say it again. The name of this document is called Ending Radical Indoctrination in K through 12 Schools, Schooling. Okay? All right. So anyway, let's get into it. I want to just get into the things I want to read as I am reading. Feel free to comment in the chat because it's a lot. All right? So I just want to read it like it's an actual document. We are reading it for the first time. So, by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1: Purpose and Policy. Parents trust America's schools to provide their children with a rigorous education and to instill a patriotic admiration for our incredible nation and the values for which we stand. In recent years, however, parents have witnessed schools indoctrinate their children in radical anti American ideologies while deliberately blocking parental oversight. Such an environment operates as an echo chamber in which students are forced to accept these ideologies without question or critical examination. In many cases, innocent children are compelled to adopt identities as either victims or oppressors solely based on their skin color and other immutable characteristics. In other instances, young men and women are made to question whether they were born in the wrong body and whether to view their parents and their reality as enemies to be blamed. These practices not only erode critical thinking, but also sow division, confusion, and distrust, which undermine the very foundations of personal identity and family unity. All right, so that's just the first little blurb, okay? Oh my gosh. So, setting again the purpose and the understanding of the policy for what is happening here, and basically saying that there have been some. They're going to get more specific in a second, but there have been certain words and language that has been used that has caused harm to particular groups of students and people, and one of those groups is parents, and yeah, so all right, imprinting anti American, subversive, harmful, and false ideologies on our nation's children not only violates long standing anti discrimination civil rights law in many cases, but usurps basic parental authority. For example, steering students towards surgical and chemical mutilation without parental consent or involvement, or allowing males access to private spaces designated for females may contravene federal law that protect parental rights, including the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, and the Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment, PPRA, and sex based equality and opportunity, including Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972. Similarly, demanding acquiescence to white privilege or unconscious bias actually promotes racial discrimination and undermines national unity. My administration will enforce the law to ensure that recipients of federal funds providing K through 12 education comply with all applicable laws prohibiting discrimination in various contexts and protecting parental rights, including Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, along with some others. So I'm gonna pause there for a second, and any questions, comments? I see this is ridiculous here in the comments. This is real life. I wish that this was a game. I wish that this was something that I was like, look at this April Fool's joke. This is real actual life that is happening in the US. And I do want to say that some of these things, such as steering students, not some, I'm going to highlight a couple things and also say that there are many other things here that are not accurate or factual. So yes, good comment. Uno reverse racism card, that's exactly what this is. So this is, let me take the policies that have been used in order to protect people who are actually marginalized and now use those policies to try to protect those who have historically had advantages, which is why all of those policies and acts were in place in the first place, right? So, being very clear, white people are feeling guilty about the things that have happened, and we're using words and terms like white privilege or unconscious bias. So now we're not going to talk about that because now the white people are feeling bad, and that is anti-American. Okay. And correct, this is not satire, this is real life, this is what's happening in real life. Okay. All right, so let's move on. Let's go to section two and let's look at some definitions, okay? Because it's important that we're using the same terminology, okay? So here we go. Section two, definitions as used herein. The definitions in the executive order defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government, January 20th, 2025, shall apply to this order. Discriminatory equity ideology means an ideology that treats individuals as members of preferred or disfavored groups rather than as individuals and minimizes agency, merit, and capability in favor of immoral generalizations, including, so I'll get to that in a second, but I want to break this down because that's a lot of words and they make it a lot of words on purpose. But basically, discriminatory equity ideology is talking about people collectively. So for instance, I am a black person. So identifying as that group, that I am in community with black people. I'm a black person, or I am a woman, or I am somebody who grew up in with a low socioeconomic status. I am someone who lives with disabilities, right? So as opposed to identifying with particular groups, they are saying you need to just operate as an individual, a meritocracy. Every single person is just a individual, and nobody is better than anybody else. And also, we know that that is very far from the truth, which is why the things were in place in the first place. So, anyway, okay. Uh, my eyes starting to cross because this a lot and we just at the beginning. Okay, so discriminatory equity ideology again means an ideology that treats individuals as members of preferred or disfavored groups rather than as individuals, and minimizes agency, merit, and capability in favor of immoral generalizations, including that members of one race, color, sex, or national origin are morally or inherently superior to members of another race, color, sex, or national origin. So all of the stuff that has been happening is rooted in white supremacy culture. So basically they're saying you can't talk about that. You can't talk about one race having an advantage over somebody else. Can't don't talk about that. An individual, by virtue of the individual's race, color, sex, or national origin, is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. So, again, can't talk about unconscious bias, cannot talk about that the fabric of whiteness is inherently racist. Can't don't talk about that. Or patriarchy is inherently sexist and oppressive to women. We can't talk about that. Okay. All right. An individual's moral character or status as privileged, oppressing, or oppressed is primarily determined by the individual's race, color, sex, or national origin. So again, we're not talking about somebody having privilege. We're not talking about oppression, all of that. All right. Members of one race, color, sex, or national origin cannot and should not attempt to treat others without respect to their race, color, sex, or national origin. Um, we so treating people a certain way based on, this is called prejudice, treating people a certain way based on the way that they identify. An individual, by virtue of the individual's race, color, sex, or national origin, bears responsibility for, should feel guilt, anguish, or other forms of psychological distress because of, should be discriminated against, blamed, or stereotyped for, or should receive adverse treatment because of actions committed in the past by other members of the same race, color, sex, or national origin in which the individual played no part. So let me pause there for a second and let me actually highlight that because that was a whole lot of words. Hopefully that shows up on the screen. Great. So basically with this particular one, is really talking about the idea of how long systemic oppression has been going on. So when we look again at whiteness and we look at the way that whiteness has manifested, the way that white people have inherently had more advantage, all of that, so that has created systemic oppression. A result of that is sometimes white people feel guilty for the things that their ancestors have done, and they go into this place of guilt and shame. They're saying we're not doing that. Stereotyping people just because they're white is not going to be okay, though many people of other identities are stereotyped often and will continue to be. But nonetheless, we have to protect the white people. So, and no one should be receiving adverse treatment because of anything that happened in the past. Okay, all right. So hopefully I made that clear. Y'all ask questions if y'all have them, or let me know that you're still here. And if you're not, that's okay too. I understand. That's a lot and it's triggering. If you gotta go, I appreciate you for stopping by. So the next says an individual, by virtue of the individual's race, color, sex, or national origin, should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment to achieve diversity, equity, or inclusion. So this has been very much on the forefront. Again, no, we are not able to do that. That's against policy of talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is not something that you're able to do. Again, you have to treat everybody as an individual, not creating spaces for people who otherwise wouldn't have had a chance. Virtues such as merit, excellence, hard work, fairness, neutrality, objectivity, and racial color blindness are racist or sexist or were created by members of a particular race, color, sex, or national origin to oppress members of another race, color, sex, or national origin. So, again, not able to discuss. I was about to just sum it all up and be like, don't make nobody feel bad for being racist or sexist. Just be all right with it. But I didn't feel like that was giving it the the true analysis that I really should have been giving it. But yeah, so basically we're not bringing up all of this stuff. We're not, excellence and hard work is what's popping, and we not talking about being racist and sexist and a part of different we not doing it. We not talking about oppression. The United States, we, oh, also can I say the United States is fundamentally racist, sexist, or otherwise discriminatory. Okay. Then it goes on to give like some acronyms. So Educational Service Agency is the ESA. The terms elementary school, local education agency or LEA, secondary school, state education agency, SEA. Okay, patriotic education, what that means. So, patriotic education means a presentation of the history of America grounded in an accurate, honest, unifying, inspiring, and ennobling characterization of America's founding and foundational principles. So the words here, I think, are unifying and inspiring, are the words that probably, if things could be highlighted, would probably be that, because the accurate and the honest part, I'm not seeing that. So sorry, patriotic education means a clear examination of how the United States has admirably grown closer to its noble principles throughout the history. And I wanted to like remind somebody, if like, I don't know if y'all knew this, but just in case, I don't want to be the one to pop the bubble, but like when the US had got started, there were people that were here, and those people were murdered. There's genocide. I don't know if you say the M word. I don't know what words to welcome on what platform, whatever. But anyway, um, so the noble, I was struggling with like the noble part, but yeah. So I see another comment here. They're basically erasing the past. They should feel bad by their past ancestors' actions, because not holding people accountable will create more people. Yeah, so that's where we're headed. I just want to make sure people are clear and understanding that, because a lot of times when I be trying to explain to people like what's happening, they're not processing it. So I again want to do my part. So again, we're talking about patriotic education. The next one, the concept that commitment to America's aspirations is beneficial and justified, and the concept that the celebration of America's greatness in history is proper. All right, so that's what's meant by patriotic education. Social transition means the process of adopting a gender identity or gender marker that differs from a person's sex. This process can include psychological or psychiatric counseling or treatment by a school counselor or other provider, modifying a person's name. For example, Jane to James, or pronouns, for example, him to her. Calling a child non binary, use of intimate facilities and accommodations such as bathrooms or locker rooms specifically designated for persons of the opposite sex, and participating in school athletic competitions or other extracurricular activities specifically designed for persons of the opposite sex. Social transition does not include chemical or surgical mutilation. So there has been an obsession with people saying that schools are promoting gender identity crises, if you will, and this idea that this these instances of people identifying as transgender are contagious or that they're running amok when we are talking about point zero 1001. I don't know how many zeros, but it's not even a full percentage point of people. But this is a targeted um and has been targeted conversation using fear tactics and all of that kind of stuff. So anyway, social transition, that's what that means. All right? Okay. Lord have mercy. Y'all let me know what your thoughts are in the chat. It's a lot. All right. So section 3, ending indoctrination strategy. So within 90 days of the date of this order, and this came out on January 29th, I think it is. So what would that be? February, March, April. So that's coming up this month. So within 90 days of the date of this order, to advise the president in formulating future policy, the Secretary of Education, the Secretary of Defense, and the Secretary of Health and Human Services in consultation with the Attorney General, shall provide an ending indoctrination strategy to the President through the Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy, containing recommendations and a plan for. All right, so this is where we get into what happens if people don't comply. And I just heard this happen to, I don't watch the US news no more. I only receive the US news through comedy shows now because this is what it has to be a show. It has to be, but it's not. Um so anyway, I didn't hear about this directly from the news, but I heard a comic talking about it. But anyway, Harvard the other day was basically like, "We finna do DEI and we don't even care," and then it's coming out about they're losing funding and all of that. So there's like a Harvard and U.S. government battle happening right now. Interesting. We'll have to watch and see how that turns out. Nonetheless, these are the consequences of not adhering to the policy, and this is the plan that had to be submitted. That within 90 days they had to say these things will happen. All right. So if you don't listen to what is being told to you, if there is not an appropriate ending indoctrination strategy to the president with these particular things, then there's a problem. So one, eliminating federal funding or support for illegal and discriminatory treatment and indoctrination in K-12 schools, including based on gender ideology and discriminatory equity ideology. So there has to be a plan for if you find out that schools are still doing these things, how are you going to take away their funding? There has to be a plan for protecting parental rights pursuant to FERPA and PPRA with respect to any K-12 policies or conduct implicated by the purpose and policy of this order. So, this parental right movement started in Florida. There's this group called Moms for Liberty, and they were taking over local school boards. So they were working their way from the bottom up. And this idea of parental rights also lends into banning books because that's what was happening. As well as they would come to school board meetings and they would read like the most salacious parts of a book completely out of context. just at the school board meeting to produce outrage. So then there was like this big campaign. Yeah, we need to take these books out the library. We need to take these books out the library, when we cannot ban books. Like, we cannot do that, because a lot of times, I know I can speak for myself, when I was a child, that I was taught, and mind you, I did not have my first Black teacher until I was in high school. Okay. So preschool through eighth grade, the messaging that I received is that if it is in a book, it is true. And that is not the truth at all. So it's dangerous. It's a very, very dangerous practice. There has never been any evidence of schools doing that or performing gender swapping surgeries. It's just an excuse. Correct. There is no evidence. It hasn't happened. And it's not even 1950s discrimination. That it is actually, they want to go further back than that, further back. So let me get to it. Let me get to it. I keep getting distracted. I'm sorry. Okay. So there had to be this plan about eliminating federal funding, protecting federal rights, ending the indoctrination strategy submitted under Section A of this section shall contain a summary and analysis of the following: all federal funding sources and streams, including grants or contracts that directly or indirectly support or subsidize the instruction, advancement, or promotion of gender ideology or discriminatory equity ideology. Okay. So again, in this plan that they're giving, they have to give a strategy and an analysis about all of the federal streams. So when it's time to cut it, they could cut it, cut it, no problem, right? Okay. So all of those things in K-12 curriculum, instruction, programs, or activities, in K-12 teacher education, certification, licensing, employment, or training. This is where my work comes into play, because this is what I do. I train K-12 educators. So I can't say none of those things that had was said earlier. So yeah. So anyway, each agency's process to prevent or rescind federal funds to the maximum extent consistent with applicable law from being used by an elementary school, secondary education institution, local education agency to directly or indirectly support or subsidize the instruction, advancement, or promotion of gender ideology or discriminatory equity ideology in, what's the process? You don't identify, now what's the process to take away that funding, again looking at curriculum and instruction and teacher certification. Each agency's process to prevent or rescind federal funds to the maximum extent consistent with the law, directly to support the social transition of a minor student, including through staff or teachers, or through deliberately concealing the minor's social transition from the minor's parents. So, again, that's back to the transgender situation. Each agency's process to prevent or rescind federal funds to the maximum extent in regard to interfering with the parent's federal statutory right to information regarding school curriculum. So now also what is happening? School curriculum records, physical examinations, surveys, or other matters. What has been happening is teachers are coming under more scrutiny about what they are teaching, right? So you are being prescribed. Like, gone are the days, I don't even know how long they really existed, but gone are the days where teachers are trusted to be professionals and you are trusted to teach the information. Like, you got a whole college degree. So teaching, for instance, I taught science. So this is your curriculum guide, but you have some freedom in how I want to teach the kids about cells, about their bodies. Like, this is stuff that would have directly affected me. So now you have to be so, like, almost scripted about the things that you say, because if you say anything that could be misinterpreted, then now you're in trouble because we can't talk about that. So, for instance, if a student, like, you can't use pronouns, you can't talk about, we already couldn't really give, at least in Florida, we couldn't really give comprehensive sexual education. It was very much, these are body parts, these are diseases, don't have sex, as opposed to understanding that's not going to be everybody's reality. So if they're going to make choices, let's at least make sure that they are educated so that they can make educated choices, as opposed to just sending them out here just blind and unknowing. So anyway, parents have a right to that information, and they have the ability to be able to look at the curriculum, examine the curriculum. Parents have even requested physical examinations from other students because they're accusing the students of being trans. It's a lot. A violation of Title 6 or Title 9, and that has to do with gender discrimination. A summary, this is still what the people had to submit to the president. So, a summary and analysis of all relevant agency enforcement tools to advance the policies of this order. So, you've made a plan, or you analyzed everything. This is where the money at. What's your plan to take the money away, and how are you going to enforce this? The Attorney General shall coordinate with state attorney generals and local district attorneys in their efforts to enforce the law and file appropriate actions against K-12 teachers and school officials who violate the law by. So there's a criminalization part to this. So if you do any of these things as a K-12 teacher or a school official, you will have consequences. Sexually exploiting minors, unlawfully practicing medicine by offering diagnosis and treatment without the requisite license. I feel like this is a very slippery slope because what does that even mean? Otherwise, unlawfully facilitating the social transition of a minor student. So, all of that. All right. The Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy shall regularly convene the heads of the agencies tasked with submitting the ending indoctrination strategy under subsection A of this section to confer regarding their findings, areas for additional investigation, the modification or implementation of their respective recommendations, and such other policy initiatives or matters as the president may direct. Basically, they're gonna keep meeting about it. They got it. They meeting about it once. They're gonna keep meeting about it. All right. So Toolshed has said earlier they trying to take us back to 1950, and I was like, no, actually, they're trying to take us back further than that, because here you can see they're actually trying to go back to 1776. Dramatic pause. All right, so here we go. Reestablishing the President's Advisory 1776 Commission and promoting patriotic education. The President's Advisory 1776 Commission, which was created by Executive Order 13958 of November 2nd, 2020, to promote patriotic education, but was terminated by President Biden in Executive Order 13985 of January 20th, 2021, is hereby reestablished. The purpose of the 1776 Commission, which, by the way, for anyone who is not from the US, so 1776 was the year of independence for the United States from England or Britain. Okay. So, the purpose of the 1776 Commission is to promote patriotic education and advance the purposes stated in Section 1 of Executive Order 13958, as well as to advise and promote the work of the White House Task Force on celebrating America's 250th birthday and the United States Semi-Quincentennial Commission in their efforts to provide a grand celebration worthy of the momentous occasion of the 250th anniversary of American independence on July 4th, 2026. Within 120 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Education shall establish the 1776 Commission in the Department of Education. The 1776 Commission shall be composed of not more than 20 members who shall be appointed by the President for a term of 2 years. The 1776 Commission shall be made up of individuals from outside the federal government with relevant experience or subject matter expertise. I just want to pause here for a second and just say the current Secretary of Education is the wife of Vince McMahon, who the wrestler. She don't they don't know anything about education. But anyway, oh my God. Okay, where we at? D. The 1776 Commission shall have a chair or co-chairs at the president's discretion and a vice chair who shall be designated by the president from among the commission's members. An executive director designated by the Secretary of Education in consultation with the Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy shall coordinate the work of the 1776 Commission. The chair or co chairs and vice chair shall work with the executive director to convene regular meetings of the 1776 Commission, determine its agenda, and direct its work consistent with this order. All right, so these are the things that are outlined for the 1776 Commission to do. All right, I feel like I'm in the twilight zone, so I'm trying to stay present because as I keep reading through this, I'm like, this just can't be real, but it is. Okay, so the 1776 Commission shall facilitate the development and implementation of a presidential 1776 award to recognize student knowledge of the American founding, including knowledge about the founders, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitutional Convention, and the great soldiers and battles of the American Revolutionary War. In coordination with the White House Office of Public Liaison, coordinate bi weekly lectures regarding the 250th anniversary of American independence that are grounded in patriotic education principles, which shall be broadcast to the nation throughout the calendar year of 2026. Upon request, advise executive departments and agencies regarding their efforts to ensure patriotic education is appropriately provided to the public at national parks, battlefields, monuments, museums, installations, landmarks, cemeteries, and other places important to the American founding and American history as appropriate and consistent with applicable law. I would like to pause here for a second and just say that artifacts are already being removed from museums, specifically museums that are about African American history, museums about Native people, museums about the contributions of African Americans, museums about the civil rights movement. Those types of places, those artifacts are already being removed. So I'm curious about the other type of patriotic education that is going to be provided. Upon request, offer advice and recommendations to and support the work of Task Force 250 and the United States Semi-Quincentennial Commission regarding their plans to celebrate the 250th anniversary of American independence. People have to submit their plan for how they are going to support that. Okay. Facilitate, advise upon, and promote private and civic activities nationwide to increase public knowledge of and support patriotic education surrounding the 250th anniversary of American independence as appropriate and consistent with applicable law. The Department of Education shall provide funding and administrative support for the 1776 Commission to the extent permitted by law and subject to the availability of appropriations. Members of the 1776 Commission shall serve without compensation, but, as approved by the Department of Education, shall be reimbursed for travel expenses, including per diem in lieu of subsistence, as authorized by law for persons serving intermittently in the government service. Insofar as Chapter 10 of Title 5 United States Code, commonly known as the Federal Advisory Committee Act, may apply to the 1776 Commission. Any functions of the President under that act, except that of reporting to the Congress, shall be performed by the Secretary of Education in accordance with the guidelines issued by the Administrator of General Services. So basically, you have a right. The Secretary of Education has presidential right, with the except of having to report to Congress. They can do what they need to do freely without having to get all types of approvals and stuff. And the 1776 Commission shall terminate 2 years from the date of this order unless extended by the president. Yes, they are also deleting electronic records. Absolutely. And that's why one of the things when I talk about um, documenting our lives, like we have to document what is happening right now because otherwise there won't be record of things because they delete and stuff. So like now is the time to take the screenshots, okay? Because they deleting things left and right. All right. Okay, section 5. I think this is the last piece. Okay. Additional patriotic education measures. All relevant agencies shall monitor compliance with Section 111B of Title I of Division J of Public Law 108 447, which provides that each educational institution that receives federal funds for a fiscal year shall hold an educational program on the United States Constitution on September 17th of such year for the students served by the educational institution, including by verifying compliance with each educational institution that receives federal funds. All relevant agencies shall take action as appropriate to enhance compliance with that law. So, all agencies, educational institutions that receive federal funds are required to host a program on September 17th about the United States Constitution if they are going to receive federal funds. Okay. All relevant agencies shall provide federal resources consistent with applicable laws to promote patriotic education. Again, we defined that earlier, including and through the following programs: the Department of Education's American History and Civics Academies and American History and Civics Education National Activities Programs, the Department of Defense's National Defense Education Program and Pilot Program on Enhanced Civics Education, and the Department of State's Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs and Fulbright U.S. Speaker and International Visitor Leadership Programs, as well as the American Spaces Network. Last and final section, Section 6, General Provisions. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or the head thereof, or the functions of the director of the Office of Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. This order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employers, or agents, or any other person. So, that is the executive order for ending I'm sorry, I keep saying racial, ending radical indoctrination in K-12 schools. And again, that was released on January 29th, 2025 by the White House and the desk of President Donald J. Trump. So, um, for someone like myself who consistently works in advocacy spaces and um, am have been cited in many places of saying all of the words that's on the do not say list, the block is kind of high. The block is kind of high. It's real interesting, and I don't know how this is all playing out. And I just want to make sure that people have a clear understanding of what is actually happening. There is still, it seems, a idealized understanding of who the US is and how the US is and what things are like in the US. And it's interesting because when you are using very calculated methods of disseminating information, the world gets messaging that is not necessarily accurate. And in this case, it is extremely inaccurate. So it's interesting. I don't know what is going to happen. I only expect it to get more and more and more outrageous. This is just the first iteration. I haven't revisited Project 2025 in a while, but I do and probably will go back sometime in the next couple weeks to look and see what the next part of the plan is, because this was just a 90-day plan, right? First 90 days, but then there's a 180-day plan. Then there's just heard the other day that they're making plans for him to have a third term and like all that. So all the things that have already been said, there's not going to be another election. Like this is what the state of the U.S. is going to be for the foreseeable future. The shifting of world powers, like it's a lot. It is a lot that is happening, and I just want to one make sure that people are aware of what is happening and have a place to be able to get some type of understanding. Also, though, I also have experience because I've been saying that this was happening for a while now, and here we are. Um, but also, the ramifications for all of this are is just so far reaching, and I think that many of us do not really know how to articulate or connect the dots for how far it is reaching. So I feel like that is a place where I'm able to provide clarity and provide some support as people are trying, hopefully, to figure out what's happening. um this comment said, and department management is going to fire anyone that goes against this because they want the funding. Correct. And they need the funding, right? So, and already it's underfunded, right? So education is already underfunded in the first place. From how little they pay teachers to supplies to textbooks, like education is so poorly funded, it's ridiculous. So you need the funding. Otherwise, you cannot operate. So it's not even a situation of let me, do this because I want to get on top. No, it's like I want to, for instance, with a company that I was talking about, like their stance was like, we want to be able to help teachers and we need to help teachers to be able to help students. So we got to figure out how to support them on the other things, and hopefully they'll be able to understand that these are people and that students have brains and that students, we need to adhere to their social emotional wellness and their mental health. Like you just hope that you might be able to have a side conversation with somebody to try to ease their brain into understanding, but it's so I'm laughing to keep from crying. I just want to make that clear in case my laughing is coming across as she thinks this is funny. But I am very much laughing to keep from crying because this is so bad. Like, I don't have any kind of positive twist to put. There is none. There is no positive twist. This is bad. Very bad. So my heart goes out to the educators who are currently in schools, the school administrators who are trying to figure out how they can still show up for their students, and like having to intentionally be like, okay, we can't say this, y'all, but we can say, like, the amount of strategy that has to go in trying to protect people when it is illegal to protect people. It's a lot. It's a lot. So my heart really goes out to educators, and most importantly to these children. Our children, the way we do children is just so incredibly horrible. Like we really just be treating kids like this is not the foundational years of their lives, and they have enough that they have to deal with. But now we are harming children on all sides of this. So children that otherwise would have grown up with a sense of empathy to understand how their actions and behaviors impact other people, now they are robbed and being turned into sociopaths and monsters. Students who have needed protecting and have had a small little piece of protecting because it was never enough. Now they have no protection. So now they just get to get treated however they feel like being treated, disposable, like they're stupid, like whatever, like they're property, like they're not people. Like now kids have to endure that outright in real time in reality. So when I was like, they're trying to go back to 1776, yet they're trying to go back to a place where there are no protections. Don't you even come in here expecting to be viewed as a human. Matter of fact, be happy that you're here. Matter of fact, turn around and look at the wall. Matter of fact, go just get out. I have seen these things when it was illegal to do it. When it was illegal to just kick kids out of class, when it was illegal to remove a child from having the rights to an education, I was seeing it happening and having to address it. Now it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. And I dare you to say something. And if, as an educator, you say something crazy, or if people just want to get together and get rid of you, now they can just report you. And now you lose your job. And because the organization needs the funding, guess what? You're a liability, and now you just got to go. We can't do this with you, and we can't protect you. So goodbye. And now what happens to the kids that you were teaching, that you were doing your best to protect every day? Like, this is so far reaching. It's so far reaching. And it's a lot. So I just want to do my part to come on and make it plain for anybody who might not have had the time or the energy to read it, or just not aware of what's happening in the US. So, yeah, I'm about to go breathe or something because this a lot. But I signed the paper because I definitely understand what it says. So I signed the paper and said that I understand, but also I don't know what that's going to look like because there are copious video clips of me. So thanks for your prayers. We'll see what happens. Okay. All right. That's it. That's all. Bye, y'all. Thanks for watching. Oh, I guess I should say like YouTuber things. Wait, before I go, hopefully, if you got to this point, if you got to this point, if you got to this point, make sure you stop and subscribe to the page. Share this with somebody else. I'm gonna put it into my Finding Peace Abroad playlist, along with there's a Project 2025 video in that playlist. I recommend that you watch it when you have time. And yeah, okay, that's it. Minding my black ass business on all platforms. If you would like to donate to this work, please feel free at $ Kimberland Jackson on Cash App, or Kimberland Jackson on Venmo. I would appreciate it so much. The block is hot. So we're buckling up and buckling in. All right, bye.